Hi, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining myself here today at Stationery Solutions Limited. Before I tell you more information about the role, I would like to ask you some interview questions, if that's all right.
Be happy to answer them.
Sure thing. Okay, as I said, my name is Angelique and I'm the HR manager, and so I've been put in today to talk about what we'll be interviewing you about today and the job role. So we're going to start by just with a few interview questions, and so we'll take it from there. Just quickly asking, what role are you applying for, please?
Accountant to stationery supplies limited.
Okay, sure thing. Okay, so we're going to start off with the interview questions by me asking yourself, can you explain the three financial statements? The balance sheet first.
Balance sheet is an account showing the assets of the company and the liabilities, and shows basically how much the company is worth.
Okay, sure thing. Okay, and the income statement.
Income statement reflects two amounts of money. One is on the sales side, that's income coming into the company, and one is on the purchasing side, which is what goes out of the company in terms of the costs of what you're buying.
Oh, so is that included in the expenses at all?
Expenses would be something normally can be deducted from the profits of the company.
Okay, and the cash flow forecast sheet?
Cash flow forecast is a very helpful guide, normally done over a year in advance, and is a forecast of the monies coming in and of the sales. So you get the sales manager to give you his forecast based on previous years, what he thinks is going to be for the coming year, and the cash flow also reflects on the procurement side. The procurement manager will tell you how much he thinks he's going to spend in terms of overheads, the rent, the rates and salaries of the company, of the money that goes out. So then each month you have a net figure, which hopefully is a positive net figure as to the amount of money of income over expenditure, and then you start with the existing balance sheet at the bank, and it goes through the whole of the 12 months, and hopefully it is a guide as to what can be spent, and you then adjust it each month, and it gives you because normally you have a overdraft with your bank, so you don't want to exceed the overdraft either, because that's going to cost you a lot of money, which you don't want to exceed.
Okay, well, thank you very much for showing your knowledge there. So the second question we have is, what statement would you use out of the above to review the overall financial state of the company?
Well, I think that you would use a lot of those accounts that we've already discussed in the first question. You look at them all really to get a guide as to the overall picture for the company. But cash flow is a very good indicator of how the company is doing, and if it's positive, then you know you've got money in the bank, and which means that you can meet your liabilities. So and hopefully you make a decent profit as well, so that the whole operation is a successful entrepreneurial business.
Okay, great stuff. And on to the third question, which would be, what would you say would be your daily routine as an accountant with our Stationery Solutions Limited company?
Well, the role of the financial manager or the accountant is the same person. Is he keeps a close look on all those statements, those accounts that we've mentioned again, make sure that they're in line with your forecasts, and if they're not, or the cash flow is negative instead of positive, I will take a view as to what is the best solution for your financial problems.
Okay, so how would you put that up? How would you incorporate that in your daily routine, like on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I would be there probably in the same room as your bookkeepers. They're the people who actually enter it into the accounts.
Sure.
All these transactions you mentioned, purchases, sales, and so on and so forth. They put that into the books or whatever methods that you use online. A lot of people keep these records now online, so I would make sure that everything is up to date and is a proper reflection of what is happening in the company.
Okay, so I mean, if you can give me a general one day, like in the mornings I will first do this, then I will go on to this to check to see anything else.
Well, really that has to be done when I get, if and when I get the job, that then I will determine how my time is spent during the day. But I've told you what it entails, and it's just a matter of allocating various amounts of time to each of those parts of the job.
Okay, and how would you say prioritising comes into it?
Privatising?
Prioritising your workload and deadlines.
Well, it's time management is a very important aspect of any manager's job in the company. He must allocate the time, the 35 hours or I forget how many.
40 hours.
It's a 40-hour-week job.
Yes.
Those 40 hours to fit in with all that the job requires that I have to do. You've sent me this job description. I will then fit around those 40 hours over those each part of that job description.
Okay, sure thing. So how do you feel about undergoing training every 3 years to help you develop your development?
Well, the expertise and the record that I have already, I don't imagine that there's a huge amount that I need to learn. I do obviously have to keep up to date with all the latest legislation and the accountancy rules that require businesses like yours to adhere to, and this changes, and for various reasons. I mean, you know, as health and safety and HR, there's a great deal of legislation that each manager has to keep up to date with, and I will be doing that as well.
Oh, great stuff. Great to hear that you are keen on development, and also your previous reflects this, so that's very interesting. So next question is, how would you address feedback you may disagree with? I'll give you a little scenario. Say for example, the firm wanted to sponsor £1,000 for an event. We wanted to basically give away £1,000 for an event, and the firm was not able to do this financially. How would you challenge that, or how would you address this feedback?
Well, obviously, probably a face-to-face conversation. I would have the evidence that I would rely on, which is mostly the accounts and the bank statements and the cash flow forecasts. And if I would be surprised if a very efficient and profitable company like yours wouldn't be able to do that. But if it weren't able, then it's a very simple idea to put across that financially we haven't got the resources to do it.
And how would you explain that? So you explain to us verbally, or would you evidence?
No, as I said, it would be a one-to-one conversation, I think.
With evidence?
The idea for a charitable donation, well, it could come, of course, right from the top, couldn't it? It could even come from the Chief Executive Managing Director, who feels that in terms of marketing and the profile of the company, that they should be seen as a company that is very keen on charitable donations, and this is a profile that the marketing and the managing director, and if I get overruled, then obviously all I can do is to point out the financial situation. I can't make the last decision if it's a marketing or managing director.
So please repeat yourself again as to how you would address the disagreement or the feedback if we as the company wasn't financially better off in financing the £1,000 for the sponsor of the event? How would you address that to the company?
Well, I think they would have to take an analytical approach to it.
Okay.
And see whether the benefits of making charitable gifts like that I think you still have to do it in a business-like way. So you analyse whether the benefits from giving away this amount of profits of the company are outweighed by the financial aspects of losing that cash flow.
Okay. Moving on briskly. Can you give me just a quick example of where you had to present, or if you had to present one of your financial reports to an individual panel?
Well, yes. I mean, obviously the MD or the chief executive will ask me in perhaps even 1 month or even more to tell them and to reassure them that the company is on the right track for the year.
Okay. And can you give me 3 examples of budgeting methods?
Well, budgeting, as I say, you have to get the budgets for each department in order to put into those accounts that you asked me about in the first question. Vital information for an accountant and for the top brass of the company to know that they have been based on past experience and talking to the people that matter, i.e. the managers of those departments that are responsible for the sales or for the purchases.
So can you break it down into 3 examples of budgeting, just 3 budgeting methods?
Well, I don't get involved really in the budgeting as such. All I do is record what the managers of those spending departments or those sales departments that are respectively managing the income and the outgoings of the money of the company, and get them to give me their figures for my accounts.
Okay, the last question. Can you give us an accounting scenario where you were put in a challenging situation, and how did you resolve this issue?
Well, I think you've already raised an issue that is quite common in companies like yours, which is that they want to be seen as a socially aware member of the local community or even the regional community, and they want to give charitable donations. I have had in the past to say that this is not a good idea, your finances can't do it, you're not doing well enough to do it, and the benefits that I mentioned in the last analysis of the similar question are not there to be able to do it.
Okay, so how did you resolve it?
I don't, as an accountant, I'm not a decision maker in any way. All I can do is give advice and I'm not an executive of the company, I let others make their decisions. I just proffer them advice.
Okay, and was the situation resolved?
It was indeed.
And was it with your advice?
It was indeed. Yes, they took my advice and they did not proceed to give that amount of money away on this occasion.
Okay, well thank you very much, Roger Baker, for taking out your time and applying for the role. We'll keep in touch.
That's very kind. Thank you so much, Ms. Folks.
You're welcome.